I don't know if I would say Notre Dame for this season. I think that's more maybe cumulative. I've been wanting to see more from them, especially with the talent that they've had.
Welcome to We Need to Talk Now, presented by AT&T. I'm Alicia J, and I'm here with Erica L. Ayala. And listen, we have so much to get into. We're officially 1 month into the women's college basketball season.
Woo!
Flying by just like this year. Like, where is the time going? And there are some teams that have already faced some big tests for sure. Others, they're working it out. They're working it out. And we're about to enter conference play. I do want to say, though, as we get into this podcast, Erica, it's pre-recorded because I'm going on a little holiday.
Yes. You better holiday. I love that.
Listen, not a Jet 2 holiday, but an actual holiday.
Oh, my goodness.
With this pod, when you're listening, there's going to be like 1 week less of information, but we still have a pretty good grasp on women's college basketball, what is going on. And as we always talk about, it's still early in the season. So we have enough conversation, or enough, I would say, what is it called, Erica? We have enough.
Like it's early returns, but we have enough. We have enough film. Yeah, yes. We have enough film.
Enough film and enough evidence to talk about what we're going to talk about today.
Yes.
So we got to talk about teams that have surprised us, okay? We're 1 month into this college basketball season, as we said, and there has been some movement, as we talked about in the last pod, on the polls and all of those things. But what team out of all these teams has surprised you the most, Erica?
It's tough because surprise me versus maybe a larger surprise to women's basketball, I think is a little bit different. But I'm going to go with North Carolina. NC Raise Up here. And I think it's because last season, I believe, I was able to head to North Carolina and see this women's basketball team take on UConn. And at the time, people were focused on Gino Auriemma. I believe he was about to tie and was just 1 game away thus of breaking Tara Vanderveer's record. And speaking to or hearing Courtney Banghart speak about why even take on a UConn team, knowing that there's so much history, a lot of the attention would be on the other side, and what the vision was for this program. And she talked a lot about how UConn set this standard. Gino Auriemma and Chris Daly had set a standard, and North Carolina has been successful, and they've seen success in women's basketball in stages, right? But really wanted to get them back on track into a place where they felt they could be. So to see North Carolina and the Tar Heels be a team that out the gate is having a good season, it for me, it just takes me back, right, to some of the conversations, the things that I've heard Coach Banghart talk about, the things that she's been trying to pour into this program. And it goes to what, is one of my favorite topics is like, right, what's the long game for these programs? How are we seeing some programs like a North Carolina, like in Iowa State, we talked about Texas, etc. How are we seeing them move the needle of what is even expected of women's basketball? It's not just, UConn, South Carolina, and everybody else. There are some great programs. There are some great coaches. There are obviously some great players. And when I see them getting the respect that I know they've earned, that for me is a team that I'm always going to highlight. So for me, I'm going to say North Carolina. They're not the only team, but again, I just had that anecdote, so I wanted to give the Tar Heels some love.
Give them some love. I mean, they deserve it for sure. Like you said, there's so many teams. For me, the one that sticks out the most, and you could name a whole bunch of them, you just did, but is Michigan. Mm-hmm. Michigan has been climbing up those polls, improving it with their play, obviously, to be in those conversations. I believe they're number 6 overall in the AP poll as of this recording time. And they nearly beat UConn, who's the number 1 team. So yes, it's early, but you should still look at that as a barometer of like how they are and how they're playing. And it wasn't like UConn didn't play a good game. Like it wasn't like, they just had an off day, because UConn doesn't really do that. However, they were right there with them, and they've played some really fantastic teams. Their record reflects all the hard work that they're putting in and the talent that they have out there on the court, and they are a team that I don't think is up there just for a small amount of time. They're going to be up there all season long from what I'm looking at and what I'm seeing when I watch them.
I like it.
And I love that they're getting their due as well. I would say that, it's, I actually, when you look at the list, there are a lot of teams that are there that people weren't really talking about before the season started. There are teams like TCU that I love to see that are hanging into and around the spot that they're at. And they have some fantastic talent on their team as well. And they're just a team that I love to see.
Maryland is doing it.
Defense. Okay. Let's talk
Hey,
about that. But
I love it. I love it. 9-0 at the time of the most recent AP poll as we're recording. Just another team again, that has been around the game. Brenda Freeze knows how to really build a program, and to see them, what are they, 7, right? Top 10 for sure. Yeah, 7, right behind the aforementioned Michigan. I'm with it.
I'm with it too. Now, on the other side of that, there are some teams that we could say that maybe aren't performing as well as we thought they were. And I would say for me, going into that list, which I hate highlighting this kind of stuff, but it is what it is in sports, would be Duke. Duke is a team that has so much talent. There was a lot of people talking about them going into the season, and I'm not saying that they're counted out by any means. But as it stands today at this recording, they aren't doing as well as we thought they would. Duke lost to South Carolina and a UCLA team without Lauren Betts. That's important to note. By wide margins, not small ones, wide ones. And they dropped games to USF, West Virginia, who I think should be ranked higher, and they will be climbing up. So that's nothing to scoff at, because West Virginia is a good team. And the season opener to Baylor. So a lot of disappointments for this Duke team.
And it's disappointing because, again, I want to lean into teams that we know are building out their defensive identity. I've talked before on the program that I really respect Kara Lawson and what she's been able to do in women's basketball, taking on this Duke program, really wanting to get them to higher heights. But we did know that the Achilles heel, so to speak, the area that they needed to improve upon and be more consistent in, was offense. As much as I love defense, and y'all know I do love defense, if defense is all you have playing, or the only thing that you can consistently rely on, if scoring is going to be difficult, then you have to be pretty much perfect defensively, given where women's basketball is. We keep seeing individual performances of 40 plus points night in, night out, whether we're talking Hannah Hidalgo or Audie Crooks. We see what Sarah Strong has been able to do just in her early in her sophomore campaign. So you really have to be able to score. And that's been an issue for Duke. We saw it last season, and this season in particular. The defense just isn't enough. And, we'll see if and how they can bounce back. But I think this is a Duke team that they're going to have some ebbs and flows when it comes to building the program that Lawson has in mind, and what I think the goal is for this Duke Blue Devils squad.
So outside of Duke, who would you kind of pick for your team that you thought might be doing a little better at this moment in time?
I know we've talked about Notre Dame. And that kind of seems almost like a cheat, because I don't know that they're necessarily not playing well. I just think it's comparative to what is expected of them and the circle that they've been moving in the last few years. It's like, all right, is this a legit Notre Dame team? Are we going to see them be able to make a push to the Final Four? So that kind of seems like I don't know if I can just say I don't know if I would say Notre Dame for this season. I think that's more maybe cumulative. I've been wanting to see more from them, especially with the talent that they've had, including with Hannah Hidalgo. We know injuries have been a little bit of an issue for them. But I don't know. For me, I think Louisville actually also kind of fits into that category for me. I think we've been waiting to be like, all right, well, this is the year that Louisville will get it together. This is the year that Louisville will get it together. And it hasn't really happened. They kind of hang on in the top 25, but I don't know that they're necessarily thriving there. I think you could also look at NC State is a team that looked like they were really primed to have a breakout in how they were able to compete in the tournament. I guess now 2 seasons ago, that hasn't necessarily come to pass when it comes to conference play in the last 2 years. So those are some teams, again, maybe thinking more cumulative because it's so early in the season. But yeah, I don't know about you, Alicia.
Yeah, in general, it's just hard because we are early in the season. People are working through things. We've talked about this before.
Yep.
And if anything, an example would be that Las Vegas Aces in the WNBA season this year, how they, started off very low and obviously ended up as the champions. So, and you could say the same thing in the NWSL too with Gotham. So it's just so early to make these predictions, but if it looks at, or not even predictions, we're just looking at teams that were disappointed maybe in a little bit and teams that were, they're propelling themselves in ways that we couldn't imagine. Yeah, it's great conversation, but we gonna see. We got plenty of time this women's college basketball season, and anything can happen. Like we talked about in the last pod, anyone can get it.
That's it. That's true.
Yeah. But in the same vein, Erica, we need to talk about some predictions that we already made and maybe where our predictions stand now with the Final Four in this week's Guarantee of the Week presented by AT&T. I heard your little laughter before this because, listen, how can you predict the Final Four at this moment in time? But we're going to do it right now. We're going to guarantee our very, very early Final Four predictions. Now, Erica, we already did this once, but has your Final Four predictions right now, have they changed, and who would you guarantee?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they've definitely changed. Doing these in a preseason is always tough. It's my least favorite predictions to make. But yes, mine have definitely changed. I mean, I was thinking like UCLA, I was confident that they were going to be able to use that momentum from last season coming into this year. They've struggled a little bit. UConn, I'm feeling pretty good about that pick still on what we did on the editorial side. South Carolina, definitely a conversation. Put South Carolina on there because if someone gonna get it done, it's gonna be a Dawn Staley led team. And then honestly, USC, I put them up there. Listen, I had that conversation with Lindsay Gottlieb. She was talking positionless basketball to me. We had that at the Big Ten Media Day, and I just think the storyline would be amazing for them to get to another Final Four, knowing that they don't have a Juju Watkins. And I just believe in what Coach Gottlieb is trying to build there. But they're going to have to work real hard to get there. So who I didn't have there, who I think I need to go on and guarantee and looking, I'm like, Erica, you definitely could have put them on there preseason. I mean, Texas is a team. Again, I look kind of in college basketball sometimes to contextualize things. I like to look in the last 2, 3, maybe even 4 full seasons prior to get a gauge on what is the realistic expectation for this team coming in. And I do think that they pass my kind of internal eye test of a team that has been in the mix, in the running, obviously, in Final Fours, and a team that can still maintain that. So Texas Longhorns, absolutely. I'm going to keep UConn. See, this is where it gets hard. I
already know who you're talking about.
Oh, I'm like, oh, it gets hard. It gets hard here. Okay, I'm gonna go. So I said UConn, Texas.
Breathe, Erica. Breathe.
I know this is so tough. I'm gonna stay with Dawn Staley. So I'm gonna take South Carolina. Oh.
Work through it. Work through it. Literally melting in your seat.
I really am. Like I don't even know if I have a fourth right now, just based off of literally right now, which is still way too early. But I'm gonna go with one of the teams that I picked. I'm just gonna stick with UCLA. I'm gonna stick with UCLA. I don't know. I can't think because we'll be on this podcast all day if you let me think about it too much. So I'm going go UCLA, UConn, South Carolina, Texas.
Okay,
lock it in.
Lock it in.
For now, until we do this again.
Period. Mine are exactly the same as they are before. However, I do want to have the conversation about South Carolina. So UConn, Texas, South Carolina, LSU. Those were my pick, and I still feel confident in those. However, South Carolina, while I will never, ever count Dawn Staley out, one thing that a coach cannot control is injury. And if you look at them losing Chloe Kitts early and just like how many people they even have left that are healthy on that team, and then we're at the beginning of the season, that is something that I think could possibly make an impact when it comes to the Final Four for South Carolina. Yeah. It's not a question of talent. It's not a question of strength of schedule. It's not a question of Dawn Staley ever, because I'll never do that. You won't catch me doing that. But it is literally something that no team can control or no coach can control. And that is that there are some injuries that are already on that team.
Yeah.
We have a long season. And also the fact on the strength of the teams that they're just stellar play, like in so many areas, like even like it's hard to pick a Final Four. And then when you add injury into it with all of the fantastic play that is going on and the teams that are coming for that Final Four, you know, with everything they got, it's hard. So if I were to possibly have a conversation about South Carolina not being in my Final Four, I would pick a Michigan. I would pick.
Ooh, I'm writing this down. I like Michigan. I like that pick. I do. Yeah. I respect it.
I mean, just how they're playing, what they're showing us, the teams that they're playing, the fact that they are rising, you know, in the polls with their play. Obviously, there's a reason for it.
That's solid.
And I really like what I see from Michigan, and so
that's solid.
They would be right on the cusp.
Yeah. TCU, I know as far as our editorial side, some folks have picked TCU. So that's another team I think that, you know, y'all gonna make me do this every once in a while. I can tell already this season. But that's another team I think to watch and keep eyes on for sure.
Come on, TCU. We'll definitely be watching these teams. We want you to comment below with your early predictions for the Final Four. Get into the conversation. Make sure you're tapped in on every single level, whether it be social, subscribe, mash that like button, hit it.
Go.
We need you to hit the like button, do all of the things so that you can be a part of the conversation. Just as we are talking here today, we want you to be in here too. So
listen,
get locked in.
And don't be afraid to stand your ground on your pick, because in my preseason, I had the Aces in the finals, y'all. And then they didn't look so hot. And then they dropped that game. What was it? By 53? 53. And I was like, I don't know if I did the right thing, but lo and behold, then they went and got another championship. So it might look bleak, but sometimes you got to trust your gut. So
right. Well, we will see. And one thing I know that a lot of people want to see and know about, Erica, is about you. They want to know about you.
What?
Yes. So obviously, we need to talk, fam. We need to talk now, fam. We need to talk host. We Need to Talk Now host, I should say. We got two shows, so I be mixing them up a little bit. But obviously, you are in the We Need to Talk Now family,
Yes.
and we are sitting here talking about everything every single week, and people are like, "Well, that's great, but we want to know more about her." So I got some questions.
Oh, okay. Here we go.
Questions.
Here we go. Hot seat.
So first of all, where are you from? Let's just start there. We know
Hey.
you're from New York. But
Nueva York, Nueva York.
say that there's more to it than just I'm from New York. We all know that.
True. It's true. Yes. From New York City proper. We moved around a lot. So some people are like, oh, it goes based off of where you went to high school. So in that case, got to shout out New Rochelle High School, 914 all day. Go Huguenots. Yeah, that's where I went to high school, just north of New York City. But yeah, my family is from Puerto Rico and Cuba. Puerto Rico on my father's side, the Ayalas, and Cuba on my mother's side, the De Los Santos family. So second generation in New York, effectively, for me and my two sisters. I have two younger sisters. They're twins, but I am not a twin. I have sisters that are twins. Yeah, so from New York, got two sisters, all three girls, the Ayala sisters. Yeah.
I've always wondered, what is it like having siblings that are twins and you're not a twin?
Like people ask me that every once in a while, and like I don't know that my sisters or that I've ever identified that they have like that like super twin thing. It is interesting though, because I think first of all, some people say that either one of them looks more like me than they do each other, but you can tell we're sisters. So that's interesting. And I think maybe, I don't know if it's a twin thing or it's just more that there's three of us. That it's almost always there's two people who really like something and the other's like, all right, I guess I'll tag along since y'all seem to like it. Like one of my sisters, she'll at least indulge me in sports, and she has sports that she likes. The other sister, she's like, that's y'all's thing. I'm not doing it. And then I can talk like old movies, like, Turner Classic Movies and Hitchcock films with one sister. And then the other one's like, nah, y'all got that. So that's kind of interesting. But I do think that there is a different relationship that twins have. They've literally shared their lives together. So, but it's also, I think, because there's three of us, that there's always kind of two against one. So you got to, maneuver in the right ways if you want to win an argument, because someone's going to be outnumbered.
Well, so you got, convincing people and arguing honest, because you had to do that with your sisters, right?
Yeah, something like that. I think also when we were growing up, my mother was a practicing lawyer. She taught at CUNY Law School, which is in Queens, which is also, I think, where I get my Mets fandom from, because I did live in the Bronx. A lot of my family is from the Bronx, and people are like, how you end up a Mets fan? Yes, I am a New York Metropolitans fan. Let's go all day. Yeah, so I think some of that also we got from our mom, or at least I like to attribute that. I'm always like, okay, I hear what you're saying, but like now let me figure out how I feel about what you said and how I feel about this topic, and then I'll get back to you. Like I don't just take things at face value. I like to dig a little deeper. And I think my mom, both of my parents, they instilled that curiosity in all of us.
Well, and we definitely know that you dig a little bit deeper when it comes to sports, whether it be in your writing, being on podcasts, reporting, all of the things that you do. How did you get your start?
Well, I said, there's always two against one. So one of my sisters, all of us grew up. I actually recently found this out, but my grandmother on my mom's side, she used to love watching the Winter Olympics. And so her children, my mom and my aunt, they would then watch the Olympics, specifically the Winter Olympics. And we just did that as a family. We always watched the Olympics as a family. And so once we got older, we're often in college doing our own thing, we would watch, but, individually. And so one of my sisters, Jessie, shout out Jessie, she got really into hockey. And as some people know, I am a hockey reporter, but it's because my sister got into hockey. But again, I'm kind of like the real sports person in the family. And so I was like, all right, she's into hockey. I don't know much about hockey, but we go to sporting events together. I'm gonna learn hockey, and then we'll learn how to be hockey fans together. And anyway, long story short, we go to hockey games, men's hockey games. At the time, a women's hockey league was starting, the one that predates the existing PWHL. We went to one of those games, had such a good time. The curiosity that I mentioned had me looking up podcasts and different outlets, independent outlets that were covering this very new women's hockey league. And I would just write to them and be like, oh, I love this article. Where can I find more about this player? And they would find out about my background, that I played college sports, that I'm a sports fan. And they'd be like, hey, join us on the podcast. I'm like, I don't know anything about hockey. They're like, no, it's fine. Just join us. And then that turned into writing opportunities. And then that turned into a broadcast opportunity in that women's league, the National Women's Hockey League. And that turned into, I'll be going to my second Winter Olympics coming up in a few months in February. I've gotten to call an NHL game on the radio for the New Jersey Devils. So that curiosity, and again, tagging along with one of my sisters because she fell in love with hockey, has grown into a career, a whole second career for me. So I'm very grateful for my curiosity and for my sister getting into hockey during the Olympics.
Come on, hockey. I am not mad. We're thankful too, because you've been right here talking to us because of hockey, right?
That's it.
And when I think about hockey, traditionally, it's not something that Black people, I would say, there's not a lot of representation there for us, not only playing the sport, but also covering it.
Yes.
So what is it like to be a Black woman covering hockey?
Yeah, it's definitely different. I grew up playing softball, mostly softball, but baseball as well. That's my first love, baseball. So being Black Latina, I mean, the Latina, a little more familiar, especially in the international game that is baseball. Not as many Black players in MLB as I would like to see, but at least you have, as I like to say, melanated people in the sport. But that wasn't always the case in softball growing up. And so once I started covering ice hockey, that was one of the things that I leaned into, was my experience. And I would ask questions and frame some of my curiosities, especially with the melanated players and the Black players, on what I wish people did and quite honestly didn't ask me as someone who is very visibly underrepresented on my team, on the sport, etc. So for me, honestly, I told the story about my sister. There was also, still is, this group called Black Girl Hockey Club. And I have had a lot of touch points with specifically Black women in hockey. So it's always interesting when people ask me this question, Alicia, because for me, hockey has always been about Blackness and about sisterhood because of the people that I was engaging in conversation. I know that that's not what hockey is statistically. The demographics don't express that, but hockey has always been about Black women for me. And it's been really great, though, to be able to find ways to storytell. You've got players like Sarah Nurse, Blake Bolden, who now works with ESPN and Prime and the LA Kings. But these were players who would only be asked at the time when I started reporting questions about hockey in February. And I could tell that they were getting tired of that. And there was much more fullness to their hockey journey, and including, of course, their Blackness. But they just weren't being asked those questions in a way that opened them up and felt that they wanted to share. So that was fun too, getting to know those players, getting to know their story, and them trusting me with the storytelling in ways that was a little different than they'd been used to in all of their years of playing hockey. So again, being a Black woman in hockey, I take it on as something that I'm a Black woman everywhere I go. So it's not any different. It's not any different in hockey. And I understand and appreciate the question. And it's something that I don't shy away from, but I want to keep it real. It's not always, Blackness is not always a struggle story. Blackness is a full lived experience. And I feel that way in hockey. And I know that not everyone has had those touch points that I've had in hockey, just as a fan first, and then as a journalist. And so I honor and appreciate that. And I never want Black athletes or melanated athletes to feel like the only compelling part of their hockey story and their love for hockey is what they've had to overcome because of the racism and sexism, at times homophobia, depending on who I'm talking to, that exists in our culture and that happens to sometimes feel heightened in hockey, if that makes sense.
It makes total sense. And, going from questions that you are asked to maybe something that nobody has asked you, what is a part of your story that you wish that people would ask you more about?
Ooh, I like this question. Wow, I wish people would ask me, more about what I see as the intersection, or really more the through line between what I'm doing now and what I was doing as someone who worked in policy. I sometimes bring that to the table because it's innately who I am, but I'm not often asked about it because this is, I think I've alluded to it, but sports writing and sports media now is a second career for me. It's not, I didn't go to journalism school. I was on a completely different path. I thought I was going to work in the political sphere. And so when I started coming into sports through first women's hockey and then through women's sports, basketball, soccer, things of that nature, I've had touch points in a lot of different women's sports. The stories that I was compelled to tell were about women because of what we were seeing. And this is like 2015 when the NWSL started, was we were having conversations about pay. The thing about the NWSL at the time was that it was the first women's hockey league to provide salaries to players. It's not that it was the first women's hockey league to exist, but it was the first one to provide salaries. And that was really wild to me at the time in 2015, that we were having these conversations and thinking about, to the dollar that a man, especially a white man, makes, what that looks like for, again, different demographics of women. And all of those things I thought were really an important part of telling the story of women in sports. Because what is it that compels you to choose something that you can't even pay your bills doing? you know and that was interesting to me. And at every turn, especially at that time when I was getting started, it felt to me like the narrative was, and I think in some real ways you can still argue, is that women should be grateful that they even get to play sports, which is not real. That's not coming from reality
At all.
in my opinion, and in my lived experience. I'm an athlete. I was an athlete because I loved sport and I was good at it and I dedicated myself to it. And in anything else that we do, there is an expectation that that is respected and appreciated, and that we're compensated for that work that we've done, that dedication. And for whatever reason, we know, but I'll leave it open for the sake of this conversation. Those things were, women were made to feel like they couldn't speak those things. At least those were the conversations I was having when I came into sports media. And so it just felt like having a background in advocacy gave me a really unique perspective in being able to comfortably have conversations with athletes and then turn those into storytelling opportunities for people who didn't have that access that I was getting to speak to these athletes. And that's kind of how I built my career, is starting there and then working my way out.
There are so many people that they start a career and they feel like they need to stay in that career like for the rest of their lives because they're afraid to, step away, start over, do something new. What was that moment for you where you're like, I can do this and I'm going to pivot?
Yeah, I think it became, I sometimes say I kind of got my dream job, especially on the policy side pretty early. I'd been working for an organization since I was in college. I got an opportunity to consult, and then I got to work as one of my first real, big adult jobs for this organization in my home state. So doing statewide, state level, that was like the dream of someone who studied political science. And then I got this other opportunity to go back to something that I loved. I didn't feel always that I controlled the end of my sports career. And that was another storyline I was really interested in, is retirement and how athletes choose to retire, or if they felt they really, really got to choose. That was another really early storyline that I liked to pursue with athletes because it was what I was living. And so this return to sport for me was a way to heal some of that. And so to answer your question, once I got to a place where, again, the dream job, it felt like, I'm going to kind of say it this way. I don't think I've ever even said this to myself, but it felt like another retirement. Like it felt like this is the end of a chapter. For me, it was like I need something else to charge, to charge my battery, to really get me excited day in and day out. And the days of me wanting to spend time doing sports started to outweigh the days and the moments in the day that I wanted to spend doing policy work, specifically child advocacy, which is still very near and dear to me. And so for me, that was the tipping point when I was thinking about sports media and that job and those opportunities more than I was thinking about policy.
Do you see yourself having another pivot ever?
I think, knowing me, it's very possible. But honestly, the pivots for me have been in sports, which I think has been, again, knowing who I am, a little bit interesting. And sometimes I'm like, whoa, what's this about? But also very, it's opened up something else to me. I'm going to shout out my good friend Ari Chambers, but right before COVID, she's like, Erica, you should be on camera. I'm like, excuse me, like, no, thank you. Like, I'm a writer. I do the writing, maybe a little talking, but I don't need to be on nobody's camera. She's like, well, I think you should just try it. Like, just try it. And Blake Bolden, who I've mentioned before, I told her, I was like, yeah, I had this opportunity to like host a podcast about the NHL and NHL team. But I was like, I cover women's hockey. And she was kind of quiet. And I was like, okay, so tell me, what was that silence? And she's like, well, if you don't have to choose, why not just try it? And I was like, okay. And so for me, the pivots have been happening in sports, leaning into more hockey, leaning into being on camera, leaning into being a broadcaster, leaning into doing even more women's basketball. I mean, I played basketball. I stopped growing after a while. So, a career didn't seem feasible for me.
I can play basketball now, Erica.
I mean, listen, now I'm seeing what these folks could do. And listen, I was the player on my team. When we were practicing charges, I would be the one dribbling down because I would take anybody. Okay. I didn't care who was in the lane. That was once I decided it was mine, it was mine. So coach is like, all right, Erica, you know what to do. And I'm like, all right. Listen, that's who I was.
We need some tape. I need Emma to insert a highlight here. Okay.
Let's go to the Huguenots, see if they still have the tape. I don't know, pull out the canisters. That's how long ago that would have been. No, but the pivots have been happening in sports, which is why I'm so grateful. Even for this, like I saw the rundown, of course, and I was like, me? Why are we interviewing me? But it's just been an opportunity to continue to expand. So without completely leaving a career, I've had those pivots in sports media. And it's also been great because I think this, Alicia, right? You kind of need that in today's sports media, you really need to have the ability to be adaptable, and whether that's across different sports, but across different mediums. Like multimedia is doing a lot of work for us right now in sports journalism.
Man, do I ever know? Okay. I'm doing the social, the talking, the interviewing, the everything. So I really do understand it. And you talking about just the landscape of media is changing vastly.
Yeah.
I mean, we see people, going to new places that they've been with like one station or one place forever in their media career. Now they're changing and just streaming. I mean, there's so many different things that are changing when it comes to what we do. But personally, what is one change that you want to make, not even within your career, but just as a person? Like, what's one thing you want to make?
Just
what change?
one. Wow, just one. There's so many, I feel like.
The top one, because we all growing and changing. What's the top one?
I think the one that I have to work the hardest at, which ironically is also when I do lean into it, kind of how I feel about it's one of my superpowers. Like I sometimes jokingly call it my auntie vibe, right? My intuition. Like I just want to trust myself a lot more. And there are times when like the fierceness that is me, she exists in me, she comes out, and it's like I'm standing 10 toes, 8 fingers and 2 thumbs down on this because I'm right. I know I'm right. And that I love that about me. And sometimes it's a little harder to tap into that than I wish it were. And there are times when I don't trust my intuition, and then I end up in places that take me a little longer to get back to, my chosen path, because I didn't do that. I didn't trust that intuition. And I think that's just the world, right? The world kind of conditions us to, or I'll say it this way, we have so much access, which is a great thing, but that also means that there are a lot of other people's thoughts and opinions and expectations that filter through. And so I want to be able to turn that off a little bit more. That's what I'm working on.
Man, when you said intuition, I had to lean back. It's something I need to work on myself, and I think all of us probably need to work on too.
That's it. Lean into your auntie vibe, folks, or uncle vibe. I don't know, whatever it is.
Uncle and auntie, okay? Maybe I'll claim it. I'm not there yet, Erica. I haven't worked as hard as you have. I'm still growing.
Listen, now don't be lying to the folks on here now. Listen, don't be lying.
Oh, you're saying I'm in full auntie mode?
I'm saying you being more humble than you need to be. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, well, I'll take that, Erica. I'll take that. You know what I'm saying? But I, for one, am glad that we got this time today to learn more about you. I mean, I know about you and I'm learning stuff every day, but I wanted the people to know more about you too, because it's a blessing to sit next to you, on this pod, but even just to know you as a person. It's been a blessing. So I want the people to know too. I want them to know all about you. And you will continue to know about Erica because she's going to be right here with me on this podcast. And we actually probably, Emma, we can work some like getting to know you questions in along the way, like some fun ones. Because we're all family here. We all comment together. We have conversations together. We're with each other every single week. So let's get to know each other better. You know what I'm saying, Emma?
I love it.
Work that in.
On this ongoing list that Emma has.
I know. Emma's probably like, Alicia, if you give me one more thing.
One more. We tapping this.
Yeah. Well, speaking of one more thing, we have to talk about Awa Fam. Okay. There's so many people talking about Awa right now, especially as we think about a draft that may or may not happen in the WNBA. We don't know when it's going to happen.
Listen.
But there are some mock drafts that have her as the number 1 pick in the WNBA draft. And everything that I've seen has me so excited about her. She's been having some interviews lately that I've been tapping into. And the biggest thing for me about Awa Fam is the confidence. Okay. She's like, I know who I am. I'm a great player. I'm going to come in and I'm going to do this. The WNBA is where I'm trying to be. But with all this conversation, what are your thoughts on Awa and like why WNBA fans should be excited?
I know in a recent episode, I talked about talking to Lindsay Gottlieb about positionless basketball and why I'm still like, I believe that they could still do something even though Juju Watkins isn't playing. And the reason I mentioned that with Awa Fam is because she's coming up in a time where positionless basketball is really impacting women's basketball in a unique way. I heard Sue Bird say it this way, and I don't know that I could say it any better, but she talked about it was actually a segment on her podcast where she was answering questions. And, she said something to the effect of she wished she could have leaned into the individual, player development side and really harnessing her individual skill sets a little bit earlier in her career. She felt she did that on the back end because that's where the game was going. And so bringing that back to Awa Fam or even like a Dominique Malunga, you're seeing young players and international players can come into the WNBA before 22 or before their junior year, which is an interesting wrinkle. But you're seeing international stars that are over 6 feet that are like Swiss Army knives. They can do a little bit of everything. And that's where the game is going. And I think that's why people are excited about Awa Fam. Another teenager, has international experience with España, or AKA Spain. I already told y'all I'm Latina, so, but I think that's why Awa Fam, and if you look at, like a Dallas team, Dallas has probably a few more pieces still on rookie contracts than maybe some other teams, like Minnesota, like even a Vegas. But if you look at someone that can be a utility kind of Swiss Army knife player, has good height, moves well with the ball, without the ball, I think Awa Fam, that's why her stock is raising. I've heard her recently say that Asia Wilson is one of the players that that is her favorite, that she loves watching. And something that we've heard Asia Wilson talk about, especially in this most recent offseason, is that she's working on her individual game. So for me, that's what stands out about Awa Fam. I love that basketball, and women's basketball in particular. It always has been international, but we're really leaning into that once again. It was a trend we saw early on in the WNBA that we're returning to in a much more significant way, I think. And so for me, that's what I like about Awa.
Yeah, I love all of the things that you said. Specifically, I have a quote. She said, of course, Asia Wilson. I love her. I love her vibe off the court. When I was watching the last playoffs, I saw her and I was like, I would love to play like her. And for me, Asia Wilson is the best. And specifically about her dream in the WNBA, or to be a WNBA player. My dream since I was little has been to be in the WNBA. So maybe if I am really good in the Euro League in Valencia, maybe in 1 year or two, I can go to the WNBA. And she also talked about not playing college basketball because she wanted to continue to play pro and go straight to a pro league as well. For me, it's the confidence, it's the Swiss Army knife of it all. It's also the fact that she's very humble in knowing that she needs to, as talented as she is, she needs to continue to get better in every single facet. 19 years old too. That is an aspect that we need to talk about.
19.
We saw how much Dominique Malonga improved in the season, and how she is just going to be a talent for years to come. And so when you think about a number one overall pick and the teams that need that number one overall pick, she's somebody who you're going to have on your team, like locked in for as long as you want her there, and continue to, re-up her contract and give her what she needs and foster that growth. Right. So exactly. She does have choice, let's be clear, but you want somebody that's in it for the long run and is going to help you build your team. And so when you look at the teams that are up there, especially with Dallas being number one overall, she's a definite prospect I'm looking at.
For sure. Yeah. And I think Dallas is probably looking front court. I know a lot of people are like, oh, maybe AZ Fudd makes some sense here because of the Paige Beckers. They have time together at UConn, of course, and know each other well. But I think front court, Dallas has struggled at times to keep a really solid front court alongside Arike Gumbawale. And so now that they have Paige Beckers, being able to have her grow and build alongside a front court player that, as you already said, can grow and build in the league, but also has a unique skill set that you can build a team around alongside a Paige Beckers, I think sounds really intriguing from my perspective, if I were Dallas.
Absolutely. And watch her highlights, y'all. Please go and watch her highlights.
1966, let's go.
Oh my God. I mean, the other thing about her that really struck me while watching the highlights, you know, I've watched continual ones of her, is that she sets the tone in a lot of ways. Like, she's not reacting to things, she's setting them. And that's huge when it comes to a player. And so Awa, we gonna be watching. We gonna see what happens in that draft when it does actually happen.
Yes.
And you know, we're gonna be locked in every way, as we always are, right here. You know what? I just have to say, I'm about to enjoy this week off. I'm not gonna lie. But
hey, we love this for you, sis. Well deserved. Well deserved.
And we will be back. We will be back. Yes. But you know, we pre-recorded for you so we wouldn't skip a beat.
That's it. Because we love y'all.
We wanted to make sure we were here with you, as we are every single week, right here on We Need to Talk Now, presented by AT&T.